that's the money question, George. Is obviously, since you and I have become aware of the idea of a Planet X, we've heard all types of predicted dates, rumors, hypotheses, if I could be so nice to say that, of when Planet X, Nibiru, would return. 2000, 2003, 2007, and now it's 2012. So I personally do not give any weight to say that Planet X is connected to 2012 or it's coming back anytime soon. And the reason why is we're talking about a planet 4 to 8 times the size of Earth. Now, the professional and the amateur astronomy community has always been very astute at finding stuff. Hale-Bopp, Shoemaker-Levy 9 that blasted into Jupiter, where NASA said it wasn't going to be anything. We had amateur astronomers recording unbelievable explosions as the 9 debris hit Jupiter. So there's a lot of things that happen that, we will, if this planet is going to be coming back anytime within our lifetimes, we'll see it. And I don't think it's something that you can cover up. If it does come back, will it cause gravitational effects or a great flood like it has in the past? No one knows. The only answer I can say to that, George, is if we look at the math, the science, to say that roughly 4.7 billion years ago is when initially Planet X became a permanent member of our solar system. And if it has a 3,600-year orbit, we divide 4.7 billion by 3,600, and we're looking at over 1 million orbits Nibiru has already completed, where it would be passing, as we discussed, at MJ12, between Mars and Jupiter. So I think personally that if Planet X even were to pass by us within our lifetime, it could be on, for instance, the other side of the sun, and the Earth's on the other side of the sun.
And we can't see it.
We can't even see it. It might not have the type of effects it has in the past. We just don't know. But it is a very interesting topic to look at for what could happen in the future when we hear things like wormwood or, in the revelations of Armageddon, and we tie in the information as the Sumerians have described it of how this has caused a great flood in the past. It does raise an eyebrow of concern. But my own personal belief is that we won't find Planet X anywhere near us. And my interest, George, in this topic is not that Planet X is coming to kill us or when is it going to come and cause a great flood. It's the beings that live on this planet.
Absolutely.
And if they do exist, that's who I want to meet. And the correlation of Planet X being in the proximity to Earth doesn't always mean that that's when they visited us. The Sumerians were very astute in describing how, the Anunnaki actually used Mars as well as a way station.
Why did they disappear, though, Jason? Why did they leave?
The only answer I can derive is from the research by Zacharias Sitchin at this point, which describes the Anunnaki having feuds, family clans amongst each other rising to power, and all the things in our past where we would worship the different idols of different gods. When the Anunnaki, for some reason, started to squabble amongst each other, they had a nuclear war and eventually decided to no longer inhabit Earth after the Great Flood, after the Great Deluge.
It's great to know, by the way, no matter how advanced one gets in this universe,
yes,
they'll still blow themselves up.
Yes.
Jeez.
So, it's it's something that over time we're going to keep an eye on, and if Planet X is something that exists, the kicker of the information is we might actually have ancestors. And, I think through our own progression of how this story would play out, desensitizing the public to, extraterrestrials, we are already on a timetable now for the inclusion of, when I was in high school, water anywhere beyond Earth was not even possible. All the planets were basically dirt. But now it's an accepted norm. Water on the moon, water on Mars, water on most of the outer planets. So hopefully within our lifetime, we'll be able to confirm, for instance, in baby steps, how about some bacteria on Mars? Some little animal that's living on a comet that we'll find. And then eventually they'll open up the idea that, wow, just as life is thriving here on Earth, even where there isn't any sunlight in the thermal vents deep in the ocean, life is probably abundant in our own solar system. But we have to come into this information as gradual steps. So, there are definitely some points of interest for people to learn about the topic of ufology. And what I've recommended is that, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So looking at the ancient sources, biblical tales, things that we accept as very sacred information, when looked at in a new light, every culture around the world, every culture, points to the heavens to say our gods came from the skies. Is heaven just floating around up there as some mythical spot we don't know? this starts to lead a new line of thinking to say, let's use modern science to confirm ancient knowledge. Besides, if Anunnaki or beings live on other worlds, somebody had to create them, and that just goes to show that there's probably a much larger encompassing view of our world, and the idea that it's not just black and white, God created us in His image and after His likeness, and that's it. I think there's a much larger picture. So it is very interesting information to look at this Sumerian data and scientifically start to confirm it doesn't go away. Every new advancement we find is only further confirming the information left by the Sumerian lexicon of information.
2012. It's right around the corner. And you think Planet X might be there too?
I do not.
You do not.
I think Planet X is something that, if it's going to happen in our lifetime, we'll see it. 2012 is a topic that's come up because the Mayans, who are also very astute astronomical observers, they made predictions. Now, not on their Gregorian-style calendar. They had something called a long count calendar where they made predictions. One of those predictions in the past was our gods are going to return at a certain date. The gods didn't return. Kukulkan didn't come back. The conquistadors showed up and aggressively converted the Mayans to Christianity and destroyed all the codices. So they've predicted in the future, in 2012, that there will be the end of time as they understood it. Well, we don't understand what that means or even can give any reference because their predictions in the past haven't always come true. So it's kind of an unclear picture, and people have started to, speculate and try and tie two and two together. Wormwood, Mayan 2012, Planet X, that's when it's coming back. We don't have any substantial data to say when that's going to happen or what effects it will have once it does.
I wonder if the second coming also relates to the Anunnaki.
It's good stuff, George. It's good stuff. I mean, we're talking about a lot of people around the world. I'm one of the 4 million. I was raised as a Christian,
Sure.
And I just happen to be one of the 4 million people
I'm
in
a
the U.S.
believer.
alone, right? That, maybe there's life beyond Earth.
Yeah. You can believe in a divine power and also extraterrestrial life.
Amen, of course.
In the early days when we were growing up, you weren't supposed to, but I think it's widely accepted. The Vatican even accepts the fact that there could be life out there.
Balducci, yes.
And many more. I think privately there are many, many theologians and religious leaders who believe that there are extraterrestrial life out there, and maybe even visitations.
Well, again, the only thing, final, wrap-up I'd start to leave for our conversation in this hour, George, is that all these biblical tales that we have, which Eric will touch on from his being raised as a Hebrew, I being raised as a Christian, have looked at these stories in the New King James Version of the New Testament
Sure.
and such. And I've always found a connection with saying, wow, this is so interesting, but how can we use our understandings of science to start to factually prove some of this data? And, the Anunnaki are the only beings throughout history that I have been able to physically have references to cite as actual beings that existed and are a part of our history that are not from Earth.
Well, next hour we'll talk about us. Okay, Jason, we'll see you in an hour. Give me an Arnold, would you?
All right, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Supposed to say, I'll be back. We'll be back. And in a moment, we'll be joined with Eric Parker. Eric is the webmaster for Zecharia Sitchin, 12th Planet fame. So we'll be back with Eric in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Eric Parker, the webmaster for www.sitchin.com, the official webmaster of the author, Zecharia Sitchin. Eric began studying the Bible in Hebrew at an early age. By 1997, he began to read and hear Mr. Sitchin, who specializes, of course, in comparative studies of the ancient world. Eric was intrigued by Sitchin's perspective that the key to humanity's past lives in the ancient Mesopotamia, particularly the written descriptions of extraterrestrial gods. And we're going to bring in Eric now, and he will be with us next hour along with Jason Martell when we take your phone calls. Eric, how have you been?
Well, it's been a rough time with the markets and everything else that's been going on.
You're a stockbroker by the daytime, aren't you?
That is correct, yes.
It is a difficult time for you guys. My gosh, are your clients like going crazy? Do they call all the time? What's going on?
Well, really, some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them are calm, some of them are not as calm. Everybody has their own personality. But overall, I would say that they're pretty good.
Well, that's another story. We'll bring you back in on another day for that, huh?
Yep.
How did you get involved with Zecharia Sitchin?
Well, it's funny. The first time I heard about Zecharia was actually on Coast to Coast AM.
Ah.
and he did the